It's recording on my end.
Oh, and we have another question. Someone
Sure.
asking about how to get their donation matched. So, match donations are via the Big Give, and I'll put a link in the chat for that. And there'll be a link in the post event email and in the slides at the end of this presentation as well.
And the easiest way to go about it is just to go to beesabroad.org.uk and click on the donate button. And we've routed all the donations to go to the Big Give portal right now. So if you go to our website and click donate, it will take you immediately there. No fuss, no muss.
Thanks, Nikki. So I think we could probably get started and let people join as they can. I'm going to hand over to Nikki in a bit. So I see there's some more messages come through. So I'll reply to you while Nikki's doing her thing. But just first of all, hi everyone, and thanks for joining. I'm really looking forward to Nikki's event. I was saying to her that I've made my own lip balm at home before, just following a recipe. And I was like, how are we going to make this a whole event? And then she showed me her slides, and I was like, wow, there is so much more to this than I ever realized. So, and we're having a really interesting chat before we admitted people on different oils and stuff. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm Christine Ratcliffe. I'm the campaigns and communications manager at Bees Abroad. And Nikki is our supporter care manager, but she's also a beauty product formula specialist with a couple of decades of experience, I believe. So we're in good hands here tonight. And so, yeah, I'll hand over to Nikki to get started.
Well, Christine, thank you for that very gracious introduction. Like she said, I'm Nikki Backus. I am the supporter care manager for Bees Abroad. I am also a partnership manager, volunteer wise, for Uganda in the Kasese region. So I'd like to shout out to some of my favorite groups tonight, Divine Revelations and Action for Life, who will be watching this afterwards on the link. So hopefully they can take a little bit of this, what we're talking about tonight, and do some value added products. So we are here tonight to learn about how to make a beeswax lip balm, but I do also want to point out that we are in the middle of one of our biggest campaigns of the season and year, which is the Big Give. And if you go to beesabroad.org.uk, you can donate, and your donations are doubled until December 10th. So if you can donate, we are greatly appreciative of it. And if you can't, like our social media posts and join our newsletter, our online newsletter, any little way that you can support us, we are super grateful, and we see you. We're a small charity, and we see each and every one of you, and we're super grateful. So without further ado, I will see if I can make this slide change. There we go. We're going to talk about beeswax lip balm today. And I'm going to start off with talking about beeswax, which is one of the key components of a beeswax lip balm and lip balm in general. And why beeswax? Well, it's made up of 300 different components. It has a melting point of 149, which is the highest melting point of any wax, soy wax, paraffin, any of that. Because it has a higher melting point, it burns longer than any other wax by 2 to 5 times, depending on the size of the candle and the size of your wick. You'll see in the slide here, I've got these pictures of these honeybees. For a very long time, longer than I want to admit, I thought that bees excreted beeswax from their mouth. I don't know why, but it just was an assumption that I made. And then mind blown when one day I found out that it actually secreted from their abdomen, as you can see in these two pictures. It's only for a short period of their developmental time when they're housekeeping bees, and it's white, and it comes off in these little sheets on their abdomen, and they're able to pull it and pick it off of their abdomen. They chew on it, and then they form that amazing hexagon shape that we see in the beehive. It does come off as white, and we do see it as yellow, and that is because when the bees walk over it, the pollen and from the outside that they carry on their legs and on their body actually yellows it over time. And then as they lay brood in it and as they build honey in it, it richens the color of the wax until it becomes the yellow that we're familiar with. But I was super amazed by it. So how do we get it? We can render it from the cappings of your honey harvest when you're saving it and doing scrapings. Burr comb can all be saved in a bucket and used to be making products. The cappings are what I prefer to make skincare products off of. They're a cleaner and a more vibrant yellow wax, but any of the wax can work once it's rendered. So if you're not a beekeeper, that's okay. Find your local beekeeper, ask them if they have any extra wax, and they usually do, and buy it from them and hopefully some of their honey. And barring all of that, if that's not possible, you can get it from a reputable online supplier. Okay. So I thought maybe people would want to know how I render wax. And I'm going to disclaim this by saying that this is how I do it. This is not the only way to do it, but this is how I do it. So I'm not claiming that this is the only bar all way to do it, but this is the way I do it. So what I consider my dirty wax, which is my burr comb and combs that fell, anything that I've collected while I'm doing my inspections, while I'm harvesting honey, I put in a 5-gallon bucket and I put the lid on it until it's full. And whenever it's full, I go ahead and find a pot that will never ever be used for anything else again, because once you start making wax out of it, you're going to find that that's the only thing you can do with it. Instead of ruining my kitchen, I use an outdoor grill. So I'm lucky enough to have a grill. I can put the container on the grill. I put halfway of wax, and then I fill the rest of them with water. And it's just, you can't use enough water. So don't go short on the water. Cover all of your wax and bring that up to a nice warm melting point, and you'll start to see the cappings and dead bees and dirt and everything that's just starting mixing together. And that's exactly what you want. Don't go too high with the temperature. Keep it very low. That way you're not burning anything and not burning out the components of the beeswax. I like to keep it as low as I can and still have a nice soupy mix that will pour through. And then stirring. I'm always stirring it. And once I have got it all liquided up and it's kind of in this crazy form here where everything's floating and you're thinking, what did I just do? You go ahead and you pour it through a screen. I use a large screen for my first pour because I actually end up doing this twice. But you can use cheesecloth, old t-shirts, burlap, whatever is going to cause you to have some kind of filter. So I pour it through there and then I don't touch it. You got to let it completely cool, and all of the wax will combine and it will rise to the top of your bucket. You'll pick that up out of your bucket and scrape off the bottom debris of it. And once I've got that done, I dump it back into the same pot, add the water again. And then this time though, for me, I'm lucky enough to be able to have access to cheesecloth, and I pour it through cheesecloth. Again, I let it set up, I remove the filter, and usually I can see that it's ready to go as this finished product is right here. Now, you might need to scrape off more off the bottom again. And if it's still not as clean as you'd like it, you can absolutely do it again a third time. And just each time that you're filtering it, you want to go ahead and when you're done filtering it, you want to use like a smaller screen each time. So if I used a big screen the first time, the second time, maybe I'll use cheesecloth. If I'm going to do it one more time, I'll pour it through an old t-shirt. So I've got a finished block of wax and I want to make lip balm. So I've got my beeswax, which now we're going to go into a little bit about formulation, and this is where it gets interesting. So you'll read a lot of ingredients and recipes online, and they'll tell you to use this, that, and the other thing, and absolutely you can. But what I found is best is to look at my beeswax as 15 to 20% of my formula. And it can be mixed with other wax. Maybe you want to use soy wax. Maybe you like Carnauba wax for hardness. It just depends on how in depth you're going to go with this. But for basics of today and being an intro lip balm making tutorial, we're just going to consider that beeswax is 20% of our batch. So it melts at 149, 149 degrees Fahrenheit, 65 Celsius. And then I want to consider what else I'm going to add to it. So additives are considered to be anything that does something or affects the product. That's going to be anything like lanolin or aloe, or if you want colorants or glitter or anything like that. That can be up to 10% of your batch weight, and you want to mix it below your 149, 65 degrees Celsius. And again, if you're trying at home right now to like take notes, I've written all this down for you guys, and it's going to be attached to a follow-up email that all of you will receive. So you can sit back, drink some tea, and just relax. I have gotten this all written down. And if you have questions later, feel free to email me at Bees Abroad, and I'm happy to help you formulate and answer any of these questions. So those are your additives. Next, you're going to want to pick some carrier oils, and that can be up to 40% of your batch weight. Now, with some of these products, you're going to think to yourself, well, I want to use this, this, and this. And oils can be mixed together. So if you want sweet almond oil and olive oil and coconut oil, you can have all three of those in. But you want the total amount of oils that you have in a lip balm to be only about 40%. So you don't want to go over that in lip balm, or it will just melt in your pocket or not even harden up at all. So take that into consideration. And also, just because I've listed some of these oils, there's so many oils to use. Those are the most popular, in my opinion, that people use for lip balm, but there are endless amounts. So I'm not trying to restrict anyone. I'm just trying to motivate and inspire ideas. So if you have other carrier oils that you're, passionate about, by all means, they can be used. It's just, these are the most popular ones. Then again, the same with the butters, about 30% of your batch weight. And most of the time you'll see shea butter and cocoa butter, but butters are just as diverse as carrier oils. There's aloe butter, there's hemp seed butter, there's coffee butter. I mean, orange butter, it is endless in the amount of butters. I can get lost in ingredients and mixing. So, 30% of your batch weight for your butters, and then you want to look at your antioxidants. And your antioxidants is what keeps the emulsion or your product from going rancid. This is not a preservative. They do make preservatives. Germaban is one, and some other ones that will keep it from going bad. But for organic use and all natural use, vitamin E oil is a wonderful antioxidant that will keep the properties of the lip balm, and it will keep the oils from going rancid for about a year after you make the product. It is not foolproof, though. Just like anything that's organic or all natural, under high heat and duress, the product could possibly go rancid. So keep that in mind. It is, okay to use vitamin E oil to keep the product from going rancid. It's pretty widely accepted, but don't think that it's a preservative and that it's going to last forever. If you make the product, try to use it within a year of after you've made it. So when you put your butters, your beeswax, your additives, and all of that together, you decide that maybe you want to add essential oils, and essential oils are going to be kept to 1 to 2% of your batch weight. And you want to pour your essential oils and your antioxidants at the lowest temperature possible. High temperatures will burn out the effective ingredients that keep the lip balm from going rancid or keep the essential oils from being effective. So you want to add that at your mix to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 48 degrees Celsius. And you want to make sure before you use any essential oil that they are compatible with skincare use. So do some research, ask the supplier, and make sure that if it is a pretty caustic, like peppermint oil that we're going to be talking about later, keep it at 1 to 2%. When you go over that, you can cause adverse skin reactions. And I can't think of anything worse to do is give somebody a wonderful gift of a lip balm for the holiday season and then causing them to break out in a rash. I'm sure it happens, but I would hate to see that happen. So another thing is there's a lot of essential oils out there that are not pure essential oils. So do your little bit of research before purchasing essential oils. Make sure that they are exactly what they say they are and that it's from a reputable supplier. With flavor oils, you can go up to 5% with those. Flavor oils are a synthetic flavor. And anytime that you see something that is like cherry mango or pizza lip balm, then clearly that is a flavor oil. These are not an organic ingredient, which is fine. It doesn't have to be, but these are a synthetic ingredient. And just be sure that you're getting from a good supplier and making sure that they are the flavor oil that you want them to be and that they're compatible for lip balm use, not just skincare, but lip balm. Lip balm use has got a little bit higher sensitivity for most people. And so we really want to make sure that when you're using a flavor oil, if you're using a flavor oil, that it's made to be sensitive enough for people to use on their lips. So this right here, the beeswax, additives, carrier oils, butters, antioxidants, and essential and or flavor oils. This is going to be your beginner baseline for any lip balm product that you would want to make. So we're going to go into formulation right now. And this is where this is going to take us a little bit to the next level. You'll see a lot of products online. Maybe you went on, a site and TikTok or whatever, and somebody has said 1.5 ounces of beeswax and 2 ounces of this of butter or whatever. Weigh that out into grams. When we formulate, you want to do two things. One, you want to pick your ingredients, which you'll see for this Bees Abroad plain lip balm that we're making today. That we are doing beeswax, sweet almond oil, olive oil, shea butter, cocoa butter, lanolin, and vitamin E oil. Now, with those, I know from my parameters that I want to have 20% of beeswax, and I've been making lip balm for a very long time, and that is my preferred percent of the formula. So I want 20% of the batch that I'm making to be beeswax. I want 20% of that to also be sweet almond oil and 20% of that to be olive oil. You'll see that the two oils combined are the 40%. I've got 15% of shea butter, 14 of the cocoa butter, 10% of the lanolin, and 1% of my vitamin E oil as my antioxidant, which equals 100. Every formula you create, this is your first step, is to make sure that your formula is at 100%. So if you run into a formula that you'd like to make online, weigh those ingredients up and adjust the parameters so that your percentages are always at 100. You're going to come up with then your batch size or your batch weight. For this one, I am making actual standard 1.5 ounce tubes, and I'm making 50 tubes of that. And so I know after I multiply the 50 by 1.5 ounces, and then I turn that into grams, and I think I rounded up as well. That came up with our 250 grams for our batch weight. So I take the batch weight of 250 grams times the 20% for the beeswax, and I get 50 grams. I did the same thing on down the line for each ingredient until I ended up with the amount in grams and equaled 250. So I want to always double check my math to make sure that it's 250 matching my batch weight and that my percentage of my formula is always at 100%. Then I have what's called my procedures on the left to measure ingredients and then add my beeswax at 160 Fahrenheit, 71 Celsius. And then I let that bring it down to about the 150 mark, around 65 to 71 degrees Celsius. And then I start adding my carrier oils. The main and most important thing that you're constantly going to be doing when making a good skincare product, especially lip balm, is you're constantly going to be checking temperatures. Temperatures are so important. If you are got everything on high and everything's boiling and you burn it all out, it will not only look bad, but it's going to taste bad, not be effective, and nobody else is going to want to receive a lip balm from you ever, promise. So keep the temperatures low. Add your carrier oils first into your beeswax. And then usually at this point, depending on how big the batch is and where the heat is, I can almost turn the heat off and I can add my butters. And I added an additive, which is not necessarily, you can, add additives or not. You can add one butter or not. If you wanted to take just beeswax and add just beeswax with just olive oil, you will have a product that you can spread on your skin. It might not be the most enjoyable product, but yes, it will create a spreadable product. The reason that I added the lanolin today is the glide factor on lip balm. It's something about lanolin just makes it slide so nicely onto your lips. So I always put that in my lip balm if possible. And then I remove from heat. Now I am very careful to make sure that I am at beneath 120 degrees Fahrenheit for the vitamin E oil and the essential oil additives. I add that absolutely last. I actually add it in, stir very quickly, and then pour into my containers. So you'll see here, this formula will be something that I'm going to share with you guys that you can use. And if you have any questions, because I know this is like a lot to think about and perhaps entertain, please feel free to email me. Always write down good notes. And if you find a product is too hard, reduce your wax, increase your oil or your shea butter. And if it's, too soft, alternatively, add more wax and decrease in oil. Play around a little bit and make small batches until you find unique as you are and creative and wonderful product that you can share that is not easily recreated online, get weird with it. It's fun. So I always mix my antioxidant with my essential oils. So my vitamin E oils is kind of thick. It holds the essential oil really well. So I'm always adding them together, which you'll see in a little bit. And that is your final phase before you pour. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions on this. I am happy to entertain them at the end of our little tutorial here, and don't be shy. And there's no such thing as a dumb question. So guidelines to this, kind of most of what we covered is that when you're making your lip balms, 15 to 20% of your formula, write it down or it won't happen again. And that will be the one thing that you always talk about. I have several formulations that I've created, from lotion bars to lip balms, that everyone loved. And I thought when I was making them in the moment and inspired, I'll remember it. And I do not. And it never quite comes out the same. So write everything down. Remember to keep your flavor and essential oil at 1 to 2% of your batch weight. And make sure that your flavor oil is approved for lip use. I also want to talk, I have these black lip balm tubes. I order my tubes and with caps online. They come in black and white and clear and yellow and every other color in the rainbow, but that's not necessary. If you've got tins, if you're like my best friend and you love Altoids and you've got a mint tin, you clean it out, that makes a fantastic little container that you can reuse and add lip balms to. Anything you can kind of think of, as long as it's clean. So always be hygienic. And if you are new to it, and even if you're not new to it, if you're creating a batch to give away to a bunch of people, keep one behind. If someone has a bad reaction and it needs to be tested, it's not a bad idea to label it, date it, and keep it, somewhere safe. And if something happens, where someone's like, oh, I've got a rash and it needs to be tested, then you have one on hand that came from that batch. So that's always a good practice to get into. This is going to be a water-free formula. Whenever we introduce water, we introduce bacteria. So that is something that then will require a preservative. And that is kind of an advanced skincare product at that point. We're going to stick to the beginner's mode today. If you are interested in learning an advanced skincare and you want to know how to do an emulsion with a water component, email and let us know. And then perhaps we can do that event next. But for right now, we're going to go water free. But that doesn't mean that the product can still not go bad. It can and does go bad. The oils can go rancid. That's why we use the vitamin E oil. So use your products a year within making, and tell your friends to make sure that they do that too. That's usually your best practice. And balance your formulas to 100% before getting the weight in grams. That way you have a balanced formula that you can constantly go back to. It becomes just like making chocolate chip cookies. You have a recipe to follow. You'll have a consistent product that is marketable and sellable, and something that when somebody goes to grab that lip balm again, it's the same thing that they had, liked, and bought for the last time. Have fun with it. Get weird with it. Enjoy it. It is a lot of fun. There's so many ways you can go into it. And I am going to talk a little bit right now about honey. Why don't we have honey listed in here as an ingredient? It's such a great product for skin. It's a medicine. It's antifungal, antimicrobial. And the simple and easy answer for right now in a beginning lip balm tutorial is to tell you that honey is a sugar. And sugars do not bind well with fats and oils. It will rise, spot, clump, and spot in your product. So if you want to use honey, you totally can, but that is an advanced formula and requires a little bit more sleight of hand. If you go to add honey to this emulsion at the wrong temperature, it could burn, turn your lip brown, clumpy brown. It is not as easy as just throwing it in there as any other ingredient. So like I said, if you want to know more about how to work with honey in cosmetics, email us and we'll see what we can do about that. So we are going to talk about what to do and how to do it. So getting started, clean everything, clean your tabletops, clean your scales, clean your measuring containers, prepare the area, get ready to make a mess. Things splatter, splash. So make sure that you are doing your best to be hygienic. That's the second best way to make sure that it doesn't spoil, go bad, or otherwise. go through the process in your head. Pretend that you're making it, especially if you've made one before. Know kind of in your mind what you want to do before you're doing it. Make sure that you prepare everything and that it's handy. Have an extra stir stick laying there. Have extra containers in case you accidentally make too much. Just be prepared for any, outcome. I always pre-measure all my ingredients to make sure that I have enough, that my temperatures don't need to be adjusted because I was busy measuring shea butter and now it's too cold and so be prepared like a Boy Scout and make sure everything is clean. And have your formula out ready to go, and look at your procedures and just have a clear idea in your head of what you're doing and why you want to do it. I'm all about, being inspired and making things off the cuff, but that will be your favorite product and you won't be able to recreate it. And it may not be the most hygienic. So be clean, be prepared, and be ready to take notes, and you'll be successful in this. So okay, so I've got to pause these. I had to put this in 3 different parts to get it to upload properly. Apologize for that, but this is making the lip balm. This is how we're going to put it all together. And so I'm going to get started and then I will follow up with a little commentary after that. Hi, thanks for making it this far with us. And this is the fun part where we put together what hopefully future Nikki has covered very well: hygiene, formulation, ingredients, and alternatives. A couple of things before I get started here. I've been doing this a long time, so I have a lot of fancy equipment, pouring pots, thermometers that are laser. And I just want you to not just get discouraged by that. You can make this in your kitchen with things that you already have. Nothing special really required. I'm using a little single burner. Measuring's important, so you will need a scale. But as long as things are clean and well thought out, just about anything will work. I'm going to be using lip balm tubes today to fill. I'll be filling 50 lip balm tubes. And you also have the option of reusing tins that you might have from mints or candy or cosmetics, old tubes. Just make sure that you wipe and clean everything out really well before you attempt to pour any cosmetics that you're going to plan to give away to anyone. So in the interest of time, I have pre-measured the beeswax, which is floating around in there. And I've got my formula right here in front of me. So in there we have 50 grams of melted beeswax. I'm going to check the temperature really fast with my fancy laser pointer. And I want to make sure before I start adding anything that the wax isn't too hot. I don't want to be burning anything out of the oils. So right now my wax is a little too warm. So I'm going to go ahead and let that cool. I'm going to show you what you all were wondering about in the promo video if you saw it. What is this? This is pretty fantastic. And again, not necessary, but super helpful. This holds the lip balm tubes. It holds 50 of them actually. They're empty. I order them. And then you place them firmly within that, flip this over, and then that way it gives you a nice pouring tray on top. And when it cools, you simply scrape the top off, and you can put that in a container to remelt to make more lip balms. And then you flip them over, take it off, and making that look real hard, but it's not. Flip that over, there you go. Grab one of your caps, make a cute label, print cute label off, and give it away as a gift. So that should have given us enough time for that beeswax to cool off. And we'll set this aside for now. Checking temp. Still a little too hot for my liking. So over here, while we wait, we have our sweet almond oil, 50 grams of that. Our olive oil, 50 grams of that. Our shea butter, which was at 37.5 grams. But I realized when I was getting ready to make this that it's Christmas time and it's the holidays, and I wanted mine to be a peppermint lip balm. So I did not, on the formula that I showed you and we talked about earlier, put an essential oil in the formula. So I thought I would show you how I fix that. Then I've got my cocoa butter, my lanolin, and my vitamin E oil. Now on the formula, you'll see, and this is probably backwards due to the camera, that I have had a pen and I have adjusted the grams, the red here, to accommodate for the peppermint oil. Now, the peppermint oil, I'm going to make this very pepperminty, very Christmassy, so I went for 2%, which is a lot of your batch weight for a essential oil. So be careful with that. Usually it's 1%, but I thought let's just get weird with it and go with 2. So that turned out to be 5 grams. I made the adjustment by taking a gram off of the shea butter and cocoa butter. So instead of the original amounts, I've adjusted them, and we now have 35 grams of our cocoa butter and 32 and a half, or sorry, shea butter and 32 and a half of our cocoa butter. So now we have again 100%, which is important to keep the formula balanced. And I have made the notes in the margin so I can recreate this when I love it again. So again, you're going to spend a big portion of the time that you make any at-home cosmetic or skincare product checking temperature. Still a bit warm. So in the meantime, I'm going to show you. I just will interject before I play part 2 of this. When I was explaining how I adjusted the formula, I made the mistake of saying that I took a gram off of, and I meant to say percentage off of the shea butter and cocoa butter. So what was when I said grams, I meant a percent. So I did the percentage first. I adjusted the percentage when I added the peppermint oil. So I made the peppermint oil 2%, and then I made cocoa butter 13% and shea butter 14%. And then I redid the math in grams. So I made a little bit of a faux pas. I hope nobody got confused by that. But do your percentages first whenever you're making an adjustment in the ingredient, and then redo your math in the grams. Your grams should always equal your batch weight, and your percentage should always equal 100. So I hope that clarifies it, but if you do have any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll get to it at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, here's part 2. Take my vitamin E oil that I pre-measured. I'm going to put it on my scale. And you'll see that all my ingredients are in different containers. And I like to pre-measure to be prepared to make my product by pre-measuring and then having them in different containers in case I over pour. I can pour the excess back into the container. If I put all the oils and stack them up on top of each other, if I have too much olive oil and I've mixed it with the sweet almond oil, then what? So it's kind of nice to individually measure each ingredient before you add it to your mix. So here we go. We've got our vitamin E oil in this container. And even though I just said individually, when I'm adding an essential oil, I maybe pre-measure it in a small container, and then I'll add it to my vitamin E oil to add it last to the batch when the temperature is at the lowest before I pour. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the tare, and that takes that back to 0. We've got this amazing peppermint oil. Now, if you have a pipette, which I usually do and I couldn't find, that's the way to do it. But today we're just gonna try to pour it. So I'll pour in a little in cap to be on the safe side. Okay, and I'll slowly pour here. So that's 1.4. Just a little bit more to get to that 5 grams that we're looking for. Doesn't seem like a lot, but I can smell it from here. Let me tell you, peppermint oil is pretty strong. That's 3. Oop, 5. A little over 5, but it's okay. Pour the excess back. This is for at-home use, and it's for gifts for friends and family. So if I go a little over, that's okay. It's not going to ruin it. But now we have that. Whew, does that smell good? It smells like Christmas. Okay, I'm going to set this aside for now. I'm going to get my scale out of the way. And I'm going to check the temp. fantastic. It's right where I want it to be. So I'm going to start with adding my oils. Make sure that the temp on the stove is nice and low. And I'm going to start with adding my sweet almond oil. I like to use glass when I can. Silicone products are great. Anything that is non-porous. So avoid wood spatulas and wood kitchen utensils if you can. It's just more hygienic to use things that are non-porous. Okay, now we've got our sweet almond oil in there. And before I go to mixing, I might as well go ahead and add the olive oil. Thanks for being with us today. And if you have something that you're interested in, or if you want to take this to the next level, let us know. Email me. I'm the supporter care manager, and I'm at the info@ email address, and we'd love to hear your feedback. We want to know what you think about this tutorial, and we want to know more things that you would like to know about either value-added products, beekeeping in general, our products and projects in Africa, all of that. Okay, so now we're gonna set that down. Well, let's put oil on it. Okay, so we're at a really good temperature. I've got a nice clean holder there, and I'm going to go ahead and mix this up again with another silicone coated stirring machine here. Okay. Alrighty, check the temp. Okay, we are at, right now, we are at 55 Celsius and 132. So we need to let the temperature come up a little bit. So I'm going to increase. And I'm going to go ahead, and while that's warming up a little bit, it's not going to hurt anything to go ahead and add that shea butter in. Woo! Add the cocoa butter in. And we're on a roll now, so let's just go ahead and add that lanolin. All right. Lanolin is sticky. Okay. Okay, so we have part 3 where we're going to finish up and pour the lip balm. I have to say, it is really hard to record yourself and then watch it. It's but here we go. Here is the exciting climax of the lip balm pouring. Here we go. Mix that all up together. While we are waiting for all that to melt, it looks kind of like that for right now. We'll bring the temperature up. Let it melt, but we're going to wait until that is a nice liquidy mix before we go ahead and add our vitamin E oil and our essential oil. Okay, now we've got everything melted together, nice and liquidy. I've actually taken it off the heat. I can move the burner aside carefully. And I do not want this to be too hot before I put our antioxidant in there and our essential oil. So I'm just waiting for it to cool down. Stirring usually helps. And once I get it down to it's close to 120 Fahrenheit, I can add the vitamin E and the peppermint oil. Still a little too warm, but I'm getting ready to get my containers ready to pour. Okay. So I put the beeswax in first because that's the hardest to melt. And once you've got that up to temperature and it's melted, you can pretty much keep the heat off if you're quick enough adding the rest of the ingredients just to mix with it. And bingo. Okay. So now we'll take our vitamin E oil with the peppermint oil and we will add it carefully. Do not let it splash in your face to our mix. And that's why I like to use a silicone spatula, so make sure to get all the vitamin E oil out of the container. Waste nothing. There we go. Set that aside. Give that a little scrape, set that down. Okay. Woo, that smells good. Smells like a candy cane. Okay. Now, carefully and slowly, so it doesn't splash, you're going to go ahead and just fill it up. And you want it to flow over. It's okay. Each little tube. You're going to say to yourself, how did you know how much to make? Well, I took the weight that the tubes held, times it by 50, and just rounded up a little bit in grams. And it's going to be close. So close, in fact, that we have a few that aren't quite filled to the top. So I'll set this aside. I'll take our scraper. While it's still hot, I'll just run it across the top and sort of push it towards the ones that aren't quite all the way full. And there they go. Now they're all full. There we go. And I'm going to let those cool. Great. So there they are. An hour later, they cool. And you flip that over and you put the caps on and boom, you've got lip balm. You could have poured them into any of the containers, and once it's cool, you could have finger applied it. I actually have a tube of it right here. It is fantastic. It's really nice. I can't wait to give it away to friends and family. It smells great, applies great, and turned out really good. So that's about it for beginner making lip balm. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I just wanted to point out today through the 10th is our big give. We're going for our biggest big give yet. So if you haven't donated yet and you can donate, please do up till December 10th at beesabroad.org or beesabroad.org.uk. It will take you directly when you hit the donate link to the big give page. So just go to the website and donate away. And again, if you can't donate, we totally understand. And we would love to have you on our newsletter sign up list. We would love to have you in our social media. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please email me at info@beesabroad.org.uk or at my email for Bees Abroad, which is Nikki_Backus at beesabroad.org.uk. I'm going to take this opportunity to switch this back over to Christine, and then we'll do our Q&A.
Thanks, Nikki. I think you pretty much covered it then, but yeah, so we're going to do the Q&A section next. There's a couple of questions I've seen in the chat, and I've got a few myself. But yeah, if you do have questions still, just add them in the comment section, and I'll pick them up there. As Nikki said, it's the big give this week. So until the 10th of December, if you donate to us via the big give, and the link's on our website and there, your donation will be doubled. And if you're a UK taxpayer and do gift aid, it adds another 25% again. So £5 turns into £12.50 for us. So it's an amazing opportunity to double a donation if that's something you're able to do. I personally think that workshop was worth at least £20, probably a lot more than that, more like 200. Nikki said this is 2 years worth of training condensed into about an hour of a workshop. But yeah, if you can donate, it's very much appreciated. Um, we're going to go to the Q&A section next. I did make so someone had a comment that was resolved, but maybe other people had the same question on the grams versus percentages and how you do that. And I think I had a similar question in like when you decided to add the peppermint, how did you decide which ingredient to reduce when you added a new one?
It does not, it's really personal preference. And at this point, it's kind of unfair because I've worked with all of these ingredients so much. So I know what I like to play with when I adjust something. For me, knowing that I want 20% of the batch weight to be beeswax because that's the firmness I like in my particular lip balms, I know I'm not going to compromise on that. So I'm going to go to the next ingredient. I could have easily swapped out 1 percentage point of each of the oils. But I just thought, well, and and for tutorial sake, I probably should have done 1% of the butter and 1% of an oil, just to mix it up. But it really just boils down to these little percentages is what makes a unique product. So when you're trying to create your own unique product, if your product of lip balm has the same exact ingredients as somebody else, but you're using 10% shea butter and they're using 14%, it's a different product and it feels a different way and it looks a different way. So for me, I like my oils to be at 40%, my beeswax to be at 20%. So I was willing to compromise some of my butters. It's really about trial and error. And that's why I say take good notes, because you will eventually create a formula that everyone loves, asks for, and that you want to sell, and you don't exactly remember. And it's because it can be easily just 1 percentage point of an oil or 1 percentage point of a butter. So make sure you take good notes and just keep track of what you like and what you don't.
Great. A more technical question. You talked about, you stumble across a recipe that is so good you want to sell it, or people want to buy it. Someone asked if you have any advice regarding something called CPSR assessments for recipes, and that's something there's a cosmetic product notification in the EU or UK. Um, you're obviously in the US. Hopefully, I'm not sure if you can hear Nikki's accent. She's based in Michigan, and I imagine the US has similar rules or a variation on assessments for cosmetics that you sell. So yeah, do you have any advice on passing those assessments um, for selling rather than giving away to friends and family?
This may come as a pretty big shock to everyone, but in the US, skincare products are unregulated. So, yeah. So if you are, now I should disclaim that, skincare products are unregulated as long as you're not making a claim about something that they do that changes the effect of your body. So if I'm going to promote a lip balm for purchase and sale, I can say things like it may help with dry lips, or it could improve the look of your lips, or it may help with this, or it could with that. I can't make any claims on the effects of the product as a skincare product. Once you do that, we need FDA approval, and you have to have a lab test the ingredients of the product to make the claims that you're stating that the product makes. But when it comes to the US and skincare products, as long as I say, hey, I have a lip balm and it could possibly, maybe, I don't know, do something, then you can kind of get away with it. So what you want to do is, and that's the beauty of formulation. If I was to make a claim like this lip balm right here cures chapped lips. It takes chapped lips and it makes them beautiful. If I was going to make that claim, and I wanted to get a certified product, then it has to be lab tested and approved by a company that is a third party company that's not in any way affiliated with what my business would be. So for me, I could look into that and give you a little bit more probably in depth on how to do that in the UK at least. But you want to make sure that you're formulating, because I don't know much about how the UK regulates skincare products and cosmetics, but I guarantee you they're going to want to know the formula. So you also want to be careful with that as well, that you're not just giving that away to someone to recreate. So you want to go with a reputable third-party company, but they're going to want to see the formula, and they're going to want to know the percentages, because there are restrictions on the amount of an essential oil. When you do a USDA formulation that you're making a claim with, you have to be within skincare parameters for the essential oil. And you want to make sure that the essential oil that you're using, they'll test it and they'll know whether or not you're following a formula. When I talk about batch, the reason I say batch and saving one in case there's a reaction, that is also a requirement with the FDA in the United States. Each batch I make, whether it's 50 or 1,000, there has to be one sample kept back that is numbered and marked of that batch. And then you can track that through sales and such. So if somebody does have a reaction, the batch can then be recalled. So there's going to be different restrictions and qualifications on any country that you work with. The first step is going to be making sure that you have a formula that has your procedures, your percentages, and your gram weight of each of your ingredients.
So Glennis has made a follow-up comment. So apparently, just for information, I think it's quite
Yes.
useful. All cosmetics in the UK, whether they're make a claim or not, have to be lab tested. Apparently, if they're being sold.
Yeah.
And if you're and they're not covered by the BBKA insurance, which sounds like
No.
other products that you make would be, which I didn't know. That's really interesting. Um,
Mm.
so, what should we look for? Okay,
That
so
almost
the
seems like
question,
that could be a whole new topic in its own,
yeah,
Christine, of regulation and structure,
mm,
because there are so many different ways that different countries in
mhm,
different, regulations. So I don't want to get into the weeds too deep on that one, but yeah, I don't care where you're at. They're going to want to see that you have a standard formula that you're using. And then I don't know what the requirements would be, but it's going to be very structured and it's going to require some testing.
yeah. I have you been? Well, you don't have to go into it, but I'm just curious if you've been through the FDA process yourself.
Not with lip balm, because I don't make, when I did have a for-profit business that was selling skincare products, I didn't make claims on small products like lip balm. Uh,
Mm,
but I did have a royal jelly rose eye cream that had
mm,
Bulgarian rose oil in it, and it had royal jelly, and I had coffee butter in it, and I was making a claim of reducing wrinkles and tightening skin, and I did go through the testing process for that. It was rigorous. I did get passed, and I was able to sell that online for many years. It was one of my top selling products.
mm,
And it is you have to make several batches of it. You have to submit a sample unlabeled of each batch. You had to prove your formula. It was very rigorous, very
it sounds
structured.
expensive as well.
It was ridiculously expensive.
Oh yeah. Um, So, and yeah, I guess people might be curious. We've people are often asking about whether we can get the honey from our projects into the UK. It's a similar kind of hurdle in getting things approved for human consumption.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, because the honey's yeah, amazing. Um, Another question. So, what should we look out for to ensure a pure essential oil? It can be hard to tell with online retailers what you're going to get.
Just do some research. Like if you find um, a supplier, leave that page open and then Google that supplier to see. Your EOs and the ingredients should just list the plant matter that it came from. If it's got big long words that you don't understand, and it's thyme oil or it's peppermint oil, and there's a bunch of other things that are also listed as an ingredient, that is not a pure essential oil. Peppermint oil, menthol crystals are peppermint oil that's been condensed. It will say peppermint. It does not, or menthol, but it does not contain a bunch of very long sciencey words. And if it does, then you do not have a pure essential oil. If you do a little research on the company online, I use Mountain Rose Herbs in the United States for a lot of it. Another company called Jedwards. If you were to side Google that and kind of look at reviews and look at the reputability of the company, do a little research into the company, Google around, ask around, make sure that the company's reputable, and they're sourced, but yeah, every ingredient should have its own ingredient list. And so when you look at the label or you look at the product and you're reading the description, just be careful that it doesn't have glycol or other additives that are carriers for a small bit of essential oil. Kind of like Funny Honey, where they added just a small bit of actual honey to some sort of sugar byproduct and call it honey and then sell it everywhere. They do the same thing with essential oils. They can use a little bit of, peppermint oil, and then a bunch of other ingredients will be on the label. That's not a pure essential oil. So just do your homework, be sharp about it.
Mm. If anyone's got more questions, put them in the chat. But it's just reminded me about the project in our project in Sierra Leone, where they're planting trees and I guess I don't know where all the essential oils came from, but making to make their own essential oils to add in value added products. So a lot of our projects do training on lip balms and hair creams and things like that. So yeah, that was really interesting to me about the possibility of making your own essential oil. But yeah, then yeah, it is going to be totally take over your life. Um,
Oh man.
yeah.
And
So
not only that, it takes a ton of plant matter to create an essential oil. You
yeah.
need like if you're making lavender oil, I couldn't even believe how much actual lavender, flower it takes to press to make an essential oil out of lavender. Same thing with rose. Rose is like super hard to get essential oil off of. And we were just the weight to get such tiny amounts. It's a concentrate, it's essential oil, but it is mind-boggling how much work it takes to create these things.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. Um, So yeah, it doesn't look like, unless I've missed anything, that there are any more questions in the chat.
Sure.
So yeah, I think we can go to thank yous and close. So yeah, a big thank you to you, Nikki. I know you put a huge amount of time and effort into this event, and yeah, it really shows. It was a really fantastic event. I learned a lot. Um, and yeah, thank you to everyone for attending, and for those of you who donated via Eventbrite and paid a ticket donation. So the Eventbrite isn't free anymore, so that's a huge help for us to be able
Yeah.
to put on these events. If you, like we said, if you are able to donate if you enjoyed this event, we'll follow up with the links. We'll also send a follow-up email with the resources that Nikki mentioned, so the formula sheet and the best practices. And we'll get this video up on YouTube hopefully soon as well. I'll go through the chat and make sure I've got everyone's emails. But if you do think you didn't sign up for emails when you signed up for this event, pop your email in the chat now, and I'll make sure you're in the post-event email. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this is one of the groups that I'm lucky enough to
Mhm.
be involved with in Uganda. The picture here, the thank you picture, that's Divine Revelations. That's Sarah holding a beautiful brood frame in one of our top bar hives, that all made possible the suits, the gloves, the gum boots, everything in the picture, besides the guy in the yellow suit to the side. That's all because of your support of Bees Abroad and what we're allowed to do and why we're here today. So thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting me and my passion. And thank you for being here. And we hope to see you again soon on a new event.
Thanks so much, Nikki. Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right.